So good morning from a chilly start to the day in the San Juan Mountains of southern Colorado. I've been here for the last couple of weeks running a workshop, kind of doing my own thing now, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I've been obsessed with these kind of zigzag fences that are dotted all over the place. I'm literally maybe, I don't know, 25 or 30 yards off the side of this road, but these zigzag fences, there's something that has just caught my eye everywhere I go, and I found this one right here that is, kind of, what's the word? Bordered, guarded. There's a white aspens to the left and to the right of this zigzag fence that I really, really enjoy. Now, one of the biggest challenges that I have faced over the last couple of days is the cloudless skies. So you got to get up really early in the morning because the sun rises very quickly and the light becomes extremely harsh, and these beautiful fall colors, I apologize for any of the road noise, but these fall colors become very, I guess, muted a little bit when they are blasted with that really, really harsh light. So to really get those colors to come through, you kind of need that somewhat muted light that we have right now. But I am a little bit rushed because the sun, once it crosses over this ridge line here, it's going to come down on these trees, and it's going to kind of wash them out, and it's not going to look quite as vibrant. So most of the compositions I have framed up the last couple of days have been similar to this, trying to get as much of the fall color as I can, something kind of interesting that's unique in these zigzag fences and these aspen trees, but ultimately eliminating all of the sky. And I've been kind of bouncing back and forth from a portrait orientation, or I should say a landscape orientation, to a portrait orientation, just trying to figure out what I think works best. So for this particular scene, I do think that the portrait orientation looks best. You pick up a little bit more of that zigzag nature, and you're also able to pick up some more of the fall color that's in these white aspen trees, which was of course the main star of the show in this particular composition. I'm not completely wowed by it, but I wanted to take some landscape orientation, some portrait orientation, because I think that's really important when you're on location to really, really work the scene. And there's something else that I've seen, I just noticed, that is actually within probably, I don't know, maybe 10 feet of where I'm standing right now, which could be also a secondary composition to focus on. So let me show you the way that the portrait orientation is going to turn out. So here it is right here. Hopefully there's not a lot of glare or reflection off there. So, let me just remove the grid here. So you get more of that zigzag nature, and you get more of the trees on the left and the right, and you definitely get more of the fall color. There is a little bit of the sky poking through right now, but the light isn't super harsh, so I do think it works. I'm going to take a couple more versions of this right now, and I already have some of the landscape orientation, so I have a little bit of a variety of both of these. Now, I know I've mentioned this in a couple videos before, something called shooting for the crop, and this is a fantastic scenario for it. I've actually been doing it a lot on this trip because a lot of these scenes are a little bit more busy around the edges, and I'm not 100% certain as to how the final crop is going to turn out, because at the end of the day, I do crop all of my images just a little bit, but let me show you exactly what I'm talking about right here. So this is the way that I'm envisioning this crop to about right there. I don't want to cut off that tree, and I also want to leave that tree open right there as well. But I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and this is exactly how I'm going to take this photograph. I'm not sure how much of the bottom I'm going to need. I don't know how much of the top I'm going to need, or the left or to the right, but now I have that information, and now I have the ability to go back and crop it exactly how I wanted to. Because at the end of the day, when you have your images back in post and you've cropped in too far, there's no way to crop out once you've already cropped in on location. So I always shoot a little bit wider, figure out the composition you want, and then zoom out just a little bit just to give yourself that additional latitude on the sides. So as you can see, I have completely altered my composition because as I mentioned earlier, it's pretty cold out here and everything is frosted over, and you can find these nice autumn leaves that are not only frozen, but they have this incredible dew on top of them, which is also frozen as well, and it just makes for some interesting, not only just details and composition, it's a very simplistic overall photograph, but perhaps most importantly to me, it just kind of better tells the story of this location, because I have the white aspens, I have the fall color, I have the nice zigzag fence leading up to the fall color, and then I have this kind of a smaller, intimate scene. It has a lot of detail, and both of those photographs together are going to kind of better tell the story of this particular location. So I've got my tripod positioned perfectly to where I'm not messing up the scene, and at the same time I'm at as low as I possibly can, because I don't have a macro lens, so I can't get super close to it, or otherwise my camera's not going to be able to focus. And from a lot of experimentation, I've determined that this is about as close as I can get to this leaf. I'm zoomed all the way in, so I am still pretty close, but I can still get good focus here. And then there's such high resolution in this camera, I'll be able to crop in quite a bit as well. But the detail on this little leaf is absolutely incredible. And like I mentioned a few moments ago, the dew on it is frozen, and all of the vegetation around it is frozen as well. So there's all this kind of frost. So there's just tons of detail in the scene. And I'm focused on the actual leaf at f/16 on a medium format camera, and I'm also focused on the grass around it, because I'm not 100% certain from a depth of field perspective if I'll need to focus stack it. If I do, it'll just need to be a 2-shot focus stack, but I want to be able to have that information so that I can go back and post if I need it when I get back home. So regardless how this turns out, like I mentioned, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I'll flash it on the screen here. I feel like there's a 60-40 chance that this is going to be a decent image, but I'll show it on the screen right now. And let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if it was a total bust or if it's something that you think is worth the effort to do this. So I've got a few more minutes to wait before the light reaches the back of these trees, but I wanted to mention something that was kind of a big theme in my fall workshop last week, and it's just kind of really working the scene, trying to, because a common thing with composition is, should you shoot it in a landscape orientation? Should you shoot it in a portrait orientation? There's certain things you like about one versus the other one, and certain things you don't like about one versus the other one. But I would always recommend shooting both, and shooting high perspective, shoot low perspective, shift left, shift right, get as much of a variety as you possibly can. And then when you get back home, you have all of that information. You can figure out exactly which type of a composition looks best, which orientation looks best. Is it zoomed in, zoomed out? Is it from a lower perspective, a higher perspective? And in that way you can pick. But I think trying to at least for me personally, I don't kind of drive myself crazy when I'm on location to figure out, like, yes, this is the orientation that works best, or yes, it looks best from, what's the loud truck? Yes, it looks best from this particular vantage point or that vantage point. I just work the scene to death and try and capture it all, and then figure it all out when I get back home. I think that is the way that keeps my mind at ease and ultimately helps my photography as well. Looks like that light is starting to come through, so I'm going to focus about 1/3 of the way in the scene on the top of that fence post, and then I'm also going to focus on these leaves in the background here, just in case I need to focus stack this. I'm not super close to this fence line, but with this medium format camera, you always want to be a little bit careful with that. So I'm going to take a couple of different variations of this, and I never mentioned my settings, but it's f/16, a 1/6 of a second at ISO 100. It's a pretty stagnant scene, so I can really drag out that shutter speed so I can keep my ISO at 100. Nice long shutter speed, because there's really no wind at all. These leaves are not blowing at all, so everything is very still, so I won't have any issue having that much slower shutter speed to capture this image. What an unbelievable surprise this is. That sun peeked right through. I changed my composition just a little bit, and I was able to get this incredible sun star peeking through here. And it's absolutely pulling this entire composition together. I just love it when those kind of unexpected things start happening. You can see the sun is kind of blasting across my face right now. Sorry. But I'm going to take a few more images of this, because this sun star will not last too long. So I'm going to capture some of these. This is awesome. What a beautiful surprise. I was not expecting that at all. I was able to get the sunburst right through there, illuminating all those trees in the background. And I even have a couple versions where the fence is nice and illuminated. And it was, I just love it when those kind of things happen. But it just completely, I don't know, skipped my mind to think that the sun could possibly come right through there. But what an absolutely incredible surprise, and a great way to start today as well. Lots of traffic, but while this light is still good and illuminating these trees behind me, I found these 2 white aspen. I normally don't like the number 2. I always try and find things in 3, But I've searched all over the place and I don't want to waste the light anymore looking for a nice grouping of 3 of these white aspens. But I found a nice grouping of 2, and I've zoomed all the way in. I put on my long lens and I kind of zoomed up a little bit because those golden colors are really coming through at the top of these trees, and it's really kind of it's just pulling it together because the areas that are not in light, the colors aren't quite coming through and it looks a little bit dull, a little bit flat. But by pointing the camera up, it looks a lot better. You know, instead of me just rambling, let me just come over here and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So that's what I was saying, just by angling the camera up just a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. You can see that those colors are really, really coming through, and then you got the 2 aspens flanking the entire image. It's a very simplistic composition, but it's something that I've kind of been on the hunt for this entire time, just to kind of get a backlit aspen scene. And although this isn't really my favorite composition, I think it is okay, and it might be one of those things that you get the photo back home and post, and you start to edit it, and you really start to enjoy it a little bit more. So I'm going to continue to take a few more of these versions. Hopefully the sun will cross right in between. So I apologize for the road noise. There's not much I can do about it, but I'm hoping that sun will cross right in between this composition, because that would be pretty cool if I could get a sunburst right in the middle of these 2 trees. So one thing I do want to mention has to do with sunburst. If you're not 100% certain as to how to create a sunburst, let this car go by. It's a really simple process to do. All you really have to do is, of course, have the sun rising or setting in your scene, preferably kind of lower on the horizon, and it needs to be obscured by something. So a tree, so you know, the sun rising or setting behind trees is a great example of this. And then just stop your camera down to f/16 or maybe f/18, somewhere like that, and you'll start to see that sunburst kind of come through. And as you kind of move your camera back and forth, you'll see the sun kind of peek in and out of behind trees, and that's when you start to get that sunburst effect. And it's pretty fun because it's kind of a cat and mouse game, because you'll have the sunburst perfect, and then as the sun is rising, it'll start to change a little bit, and then you have to change your composition to kind of get the sunburst back. But it's a real simple process to do, and it's a fantastic way to just add a little bit more complexity, a little bit more interest to your photograph. So I hope you did enjoy this week's video and did get some helpful information out of it in regards to just really working a scene, getting a ton of variety of your composition, and figuring out what you like best in post, or if you know how to create a sunburst, or if you just like looking at beautiful fall scenery. I do hope you enjoyed this week's video, and if you did enjoy it, if you could give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, and as always, I really do appreciate you checking out this week's video, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye.